for Mr Stewart Hosie MP.
Thank you very much indeed. Earlier on I was described as a right honourable. I've been promoted clearly, I'm just an honourable. In an independent Scotland we'll just be Mr and Mrs because it'll be a lot more egalitarian, and that makes sense. Can I say, in terms of independence, what we are seeking is normal. We are not seeking anything that any other country on the face of the planet doesn't simply take for granted: the ability of its democratically elected government, elected by the people at every election, to do the right thing for the people of the country. In our case, our government, the one we elect every single time, to look after the 5.3 million of us who live in Scotland. And at its heart, it's as simple and democratic as that. Instead of getting the government we elect half the time, we will get the government we elect all of the time. It really is that straightforward. What strikes me though in this campaign is the way in which our opponents choose to engage. None of it's new. Too small, too poor, too stupid, subsidy junkies, welfare dependent, we simply couldn't do it. Incredibly, they suggest that for a nation of 5 million, having so much oil off our shore is a problem for us, when of course it's an asset for every other country on the face of the planet. So what I want to do is just knock some of these myths very quickly on the head. Our opponents tell us we are public sector dependent, as if that's a bad thing. Friends, there are 2.5 million people employed in Scotland. 77% of them work in the private sector. I'm not going to argue that's the right or the wrong proportion. What I'm saying is, when our opponents say we're public sector dependent, it simply isn't true. They tell us we're welfare dependent on one hand, and on the other, we won't be able to afford to pay our pensions. Friends, in Scotland, we spend a smaller share of our national wealth on pensions and benefits than the UK as a whole. Far from being welfare dependent, we are in a better position to meet our obligations to the poor and the old in the future. They tell us also our oil is about to run out. There's £1.5 trillion left. It will generate around £400 billion of revenue. Our argument is a simple one. Just because Westminster has wasted the first 300 billion of revenue doesn't give them the right to waste the next 400 billion of revenue. It's Scotland's time and turn to invest that resource for our people's future. But of course the big myth is the subsidy myth. We're dependent on largesse flowing from the coffers of London up to Scotland to keep us in the style that we've all become accustomed. The problem is that isn't true either. In the last 5 years, our economy hasn't just been a wee bit better in relation to the UK. It's been 8.5 billion times better, 8.5 billion pounds stronger relative to the UK position. And that shouldn't surprise us, because it's been stronger on average for over 30 years. And that shouldn't surprise us, because we've generated more in tax, more than £1,300 a year per person in tax for over 33 years. So we pay our way. So having failed to lay a glove on Scotland, having failed to lay a glove on the Yes campaign, they then fall back to even weaker arguments. They argue there's not a single problem they've ever seen to which independence is the solution. All we need, they say, is a change in government or a change in policy. Friends, think what that means. It means 18 years of Tory government, 18 years of Thatcher and Major, 18 years as industries were dismantled before our eyes was a price worth paying for Tony Blair and an illegal war in Iraq. I suspect there are damn few in this crowd who would agree with that prospectus.
What are good Tories in Labour?
So, we have a vote on the 18th of September. We know we can be independent. We know we should be independent. In order to deliver Scotland's resources for Scotland's people, to do the right thing, particularly for the poorest in our society, we must be independent. And what are we faced with? We're faced with opponents who call themselves Project Fear, and they do so because fear is a powerful emotion. So is hope, and so is regret. So let's be positive. Let's use all the ammunition at our disposal, every argument we can deploy every day between now and the 18th of September. And let us not wake up on the 19th, regretting forever that we were the generation that said no to our country being a normal, independent nation. Now, I'm sure that won't happen, because the arguments are on our side. History is on our side. The No campaign is collapsing in a way I've never seen a campaign collapse before. And with grassroots activism like this, people in all sorts of organisations campaigning in every community around Scotland, day and daily, we can win, we should win, and we will win on the 18th of September. Thanks for listening.
Right on, brother.